Good evening, everyone. Thank you for joining us this evening for our Real Talk series, Advising for Your Student Success. Thank you for taking the time out of your evening. I know that you could be doing so many other things like having dinner or cooking and things like that, which is perfectly fine if you're doing that. My name is Eva Reyes, and I'm the director of the Office of Parent and Family Relations. And joining us today, we have advisors from the Advisement Center, and I am going to have them introduce themselves.
Okay. Ladies first.
Thank you, Cesar. My name is Paola Chaparro. I am one of the academic advisors at the Glorious Advisement Center. I've been working for William Paterson for 3 years now, and I am looking forward to, this discussion with you in this presentation.
So good evening, everyone. Once again, as echoed by my colleague, Ms. Reyes, we thank you for joining us this evening. My name is Cesar Castro, and I've been with this wonderful institution for now 12 years as academic and retention coordinator. And we certainly look forward to having a very lively conversation and answering any of your concerns or questions that you have for us in discussion of your students' academic journey.
So we're going to get started. If you have any questions at any time, you could always write it on the chat. Ava is going to be monitoring that, and then we'll be able to answer. And then at the end, we're also going to have some Q&A as well. But Cesar and I are going to be asking some questions during the presentation. So hopefully you're able to participate, of course. Okay, so for today's presentation, we're going to be discussing student academic success. We're also going to be discussing a little bit of the registration process, as well as letting you know how the attendance policy and alerts work here at William Paterson, and then going into a little bit of details in regards to some of the academic and campus resources to make sure that students are doing well for this semester.
All right, so what we mainly like to focus on for our first year students and all students that are part of our community is to have a successful and effective transition into college. What that looks like is integrating the student into our campus culture, informing them on the resources that we have available, as well as developing a relationship with their academic advisor as well as success team, which we will talk a little bit about later. And encouraging also to really go out and network with their fellow cohorts, the fellow, as I like to call them, professional colleagues or fellow students, and just overall get involved on campus. The more people that you get to know, the more involved that you are, the more you show your face, the better your chances and opportunities are to really become an agent of success on campus. We also like our students to be involved in all types of activities, workshops. We have a big one that we do in the fall semester, which is called Majors and Minors Day. Just the recent one that we had nearly 600 students participate, and all the departments, if not majority, all of them do take part of this, and they answer all questions pertaining to students' current major, potential major change, and the career opportunities that are available through those majors. We really put a lot of focus during our willpower class, which is a sort of a first year seminar class with our students where we work on time management. As you all are very well aware by now in checking the student's schedule, you will have known that a lot of the classes don't take part back to back as they do in high school. So that is very important emphasis that we put on every student to really manage their time, because now they have a lot of responsibility to really move forward and really take the responsibility to follow up with assignments and building a relationship with their instructor. We're going to talk more about this, a proactive approach to challenges, which we alluded earlier with the Navigate flags, how we help students engage and be somewhat intrusive with their academic journey so that we ensure that they are successful and they stay on top of their work. All our goal is for our students when transitioning into the university, again, to become successful. We always tell students that the first few semesters should be the easy A's, should be the easy, like the high grades, because as they move along and progress in their academic journey, the classes will become more challenging and more time consuming. So all these parts play a big role into a student being successful throughout the academic year, especially their first year. And it's all about just showing up and performing. We always tell them there's gonna be days where it might be rainy, it's gonna get colder now. You see the leaves falling off the trees. Not to get discouraged. The semester goes by fairly quickly. And there's always opportunities. If there's a downside, to always pick it right back up. So now that we're heading into November, that's where we really focus on maintaining their motivation and staying on top of their work.
Something that I did want to mention as well is that during the school year, students also have what is called, hours from 12:30 or 12 to 2 p.m., which is common hour, that they don't have any classes on Tuesdays and Thursdays. And we like students to take the opportunity to attend the workshops and attend different club meetings and also socialize on campus during those hours because there's no classes happening at all. So we always recommend for students to just stay on campus if they're commuters, just that way they can actually start building a connection to the university. And if they need help looking for different clubs that we have a system, especially that they can utilize. It's called Pioneer Life through WP Connect that they can utilize to kind of see all the events happening. So there's always something happening. So if a student is saying that they don't know what to do when they're on campus, tell them to check Pioneer Life because there's always something there that they can use and attend to. Okay, so the next topic that we did want to discuss a little bit is the registration process. I do want to ask a question to the parents here. If you could just write it on the chat, or you could do a little bit, unmute yourself if you want to. It's up to you. If you could let me know are you aware if your student already has registered for classes? You could say yes or no.
So there are some yes in the chat.
Okay, perfect. So if you're not sure if they haven't registered, it's always good just to let them know, like, hey, make sure you register for the semester. Because registration actually already started on October 16. So pretty much students have a timetable that they have to follow, and depending on how many credits they actually have earned during the semester that they've been here, then that's when the registration starts for them. We recommend for students to meet with their academic advisor because they need to receive their PIN. So pretty much for every student to be able to register, it is required of them to be with an advisor. Otherwise, you're not going to be able to open up the registration because until they get that PIN number, that registration is going to be locked for them. The way that they do go about registration is pretty much once they meet with their advisor, they receive their PIN and the course recommendations. Then they're able to go into the WP Connect account, and WP looks like this if you haven't seen it before. And right here, it's going to say my registration. That's where students go in typically to register. We always recommend for the students to look for holes if they have any holes, and holes could be something like financial aid hole, immunizations, or anything like that prevents them from registering for classes. But the number one step is for them to communicate with an advisor. The students should know by now who their advisor is. If they do not know, they could check also to their WP Connect account. It should be under My Degree. And also if they check their degree works, their advisor is going to be right there. But all of the advisors from our center have been in communication with all their students, meaning that we all have sent them emails reminding them of registration. Therefore, as a parent, we recommend for you to have that conversation with them if possible, just to give them a little bit of a reminder, just to meet with us, for us to start having those conversations with them, because otherwise they're not going to be able to continue their education for next semester if they don't register for the classes. And classes become really full quickly. So we want to just make sure that they are being on track of everything. Does anyone have any questions in regards to registration right now? Any concerns?
I would like to add a couple of other things as well. As my colleague mentioned, the PIN information, it becomes like their access code to get information on the classes. And I'd like to mention the following, because oftentimes students run into challenges because they have certain concerns about the class rigor in some cases, right? If your students in science or students in business, we always encourage them, you have to know how to balance your classes, and we make those recommendations, obviously. But one of the biggest thing is to ensure that your student is not, it's basically stopping themselves from registering for a class simply because there may be a time that is not suitable for them. Let's just say, for example, or if they happen, this is a very popular site, Rate My Professor, that they read certain reviews from a professor, and now they say, oh, well, I'm stuck because this is not the professor. There's a variety of opinions on it. Ultimately, what we like to tell students is it's just like the workforce. When you have a career, when you have a job, you don't get to select who your manager is, right? You have to make adjustments to the work style of your manager. The same applies in school. There isn't a thing where you just have one way of learning and then that's going to be it. That's what this platform is for. That's what college experience is, to challenge yourself, to get out of your bubble, and to make adjustments. So, because a lot of times students feel uncomfortable, and in the last couple of years, we had a pandemic, people have to make adjustments online and what have you. Many of the classes, I want to make mention of this, many of our classes are in person. And the reason for that is because stats have shown, data has indicated that interaction in person, you can't replace that, especially for our first year students, because we have some students ask for online options. That isn't an option until later on. So you just want to make mention of those couple of things, because now we're dealing with a young professional. This isn't an intent for an extension of high school where you have a group of people doing things for you. We like to empower our students. So if a student mentions that, oh, they don't have the time that I want, or this professor, have that conversation with your student. Most of our students are really good about that. They understand. Instructors are here. We have top-notch instructors at all levels in different areas of our concentrations that are there to really help the students succeed. I know learning styles, teaching styles are different, but that's part of the journey. That is also part of the conversation that we have with students when advising them. Okay, so Paula and I will talk a little bit about this. So DegreeWorks. DegreeWorks is an incredible, powerful tool that allows the student to really see where they are, where they stand academically, how far they're going, percentage-wise. And we tell students the magic number that you want to have per semester of classes is at minimum 5 classes so that you graduate in 4. Now, mitigating circumstances may arise. You may have to take less. The minimum number of credits to take is 12 for financial aid reasons, and also for scholarship reasons if the student happens to have those, or grants as well. And there's always ways to, if a student cannot complete the 15 credits a semester, there's always winter options or summer options. There's many ways that they could get to the magic number of 120 credits to graduate. DegreeWorks is that tool that allows them to see where they are, what areas they have completed. And it also helps us as advisors to, when we're auditing our students' degree requirements, it also helps us to list the classes that they should be looking at and they should be taking the following semester. Again, it's all done individually. Like, this really caters to the individual, because some students may be a little ahead or a little back, but there's always way to advise a student so that this way they're up to where they need to be. And at times it takes a little longer, and that's fine, as long as they're meeting all their degree requirements. So really put a lot of emphasis on this powerful tool, and early on they become familiar with how this system works.
So something that I wanted to mention, and I apologize in advance if you hear my dog going crazy. But going back to the 15 credits per semester, if a student is eligible for certain scholarships, they will require the student to take at least 15 credits. So by the end of the year, they have completed 30 credits, like their first year, second year, 60 credits, 90 the third, and by the end, 120. So you have to be cognizant, and your student has to be cognizant that if they are eligible for certain scholarships, that they are credit requirements that are tagged along with that. There is a question in the chat. Can a student take other core requirements if it's listed specifically in DegreeWorks? Example, communication in action is a 2A. Can they take a 2A?
If I understand the question correctly, certain majors have a specific class that has to be fulfilled in a specific core. But if it's open, you can select a list of classes from that specific area. In this particular case, area 2A, which is communication. But if it's a particular major, one that comes into my belief is CIT or computer science, they have a specific class. That class has to be completed in that area. But for the most part, majority of the UCCs or the core university core curriculum classes are open to select from a list of classes available within that area. In other cases, there are specific classes. Nursing is a good example. CIT is a good example. Business is a good example for specific math. Nursing, some of the sciences are good examples of specific classes in certain areas. But for the majority part, there are available classes in specific areas for the student to select from a list of classes from. I hope I answered that question.
I do want to point out as well that, if a student also wants to, so as advisors, we meet with students all the time. They're required to meet with us every semester. For freshmen, it's twice a semester. And then for continuing student, is a minimum of once a semester. However, the student can meet with us how many times, they want to. I would say, though, that we are also able to meet with students and work on their academic plan. So if you are not sure what an academic plan is, it's pretty much an academic plan allows the student and even the advisors to create a plan for the student, for them to know when they're going to be graduating and what classes they should be taking every semester all the way until the graduation date. That way the student knows and have a plan and track. They'd be like, okay, every semester I need to follow this to be able to graduate. Let's say spring 25 semester. Now, if the student also wants to take summer classes or even winter classes, we're able to input that on that plan. So the student is able to just kind of follow that until the graduation, but just, also keep in mind that plans they could change. It's not 100% guarantee that a plan is going to happen as it is, but at least it gives them more of like a visual and a goal for them to achieve every semester in regards of credits wise and DegreeWorks wise. Because on DegreeWorks, the student is able to see everything from point A to point B to where they need, from where they are at this moment to where they need to be at the end of their 4 years, hopefully.
Lastly, a great tool that DegreeWorks does have is GPA calculator, expectation calculator. And we go over that with the students so that they're very well aware of how quality points work, how GPA is managed, and what to expect if they want a specific grade. This is a great tool they could utilize themselves, and it's all part of DegreeWorks as well.
Now, we wanted to touch base a little bit when it comes to academic advising. The reason as to why is because hopefully everyone here is aware that every student has an academic advisor. But we're here to make sure that the student at the end of the day graduates. That's our main focus. But for us to be able to get them to the finish line, we need to work with them hands-on, one-on-one, every semester. So we make sure that we're able to empower them in regards of choosing the right classes, making sure that they're making connections with other students, faculty mentors, and even other departments at the university, and that they're utilizing all of the resources available for them. One of the things that I tell my students all the time in my willpower class is that if you need help or if you have any questions, use me as a resource. I don't like my students to feel like they don't have anyone to count on, that they need to figure things out on their own, because at the end of the day, like, I'm here for them and that is my job. So that's one of the things that I instill with my student. If there is a question that you have that we may not know the answer to as advisors, we're going to figure it out, or we're going to put you in communication with someone that is going to be able to help you. The same thing with parents. If you all have questions, Ava is here to make sure to guide you through the questions that you may have. So there's always a resource available. So for us as advisors, we work with the students really closely with them. We make sure that they're where they need to be. And then Ava is here to work with you as a parent to guide you as well. So don't ever hesitate to ask any questions. And then the student, if they're telling you that they don't know where to go, who to ask questions to, or that they need support, just send them to their advisor. Just let them know, like, hey, go into your WP Connect account, check who your advisor is, and then have the student send an email to the advisor, and the advisor will be able to answer them within, we always say, 24 hours to 48 hours. If the advisor is not in the office, we have other staff members as well able to help them to move forward.
So we have another question.
Mhm.
Can a freshman get into any asynchronous classes, or do they have to wait for their sophomore year?
Sophomore year.
Sophomore year, yes.
Mm-hmm.
Sophomore year. There's only, I could say from experience that the only students that I have been able to see that have gotten into asynchronous courses as a freshman is because it's a part of their major, meaning that there is a class that is always offered asynchronously and they never have it in person. That is the only way that they're able to get into the asynchronous course. Just because we want, as a freshman, for us, it's really important for them to have that, in-person interaction with other students, get acclimated to being a college student, especially with COVID and everything that happened. Students still need to kind of get back on track in regards to being in person and having that personal touch. So that's why we want to instill in our student. And freshman year is such an important year for everyone because they're still getting used to their time management, being on their own. Like, some of them live on campus. So for us, that's the best way to kind of get them acclimated to the university. But after the freshman year, it's up to them if they want to take online courses or if they want to have everything in person. But I would say, if communicate with the advisor, that's the best recommendation that I have. But for asynchronous, unfortunately, it has to be their sophomore year.
And also, when we advise students and there's those options available in their second, third year, we also take like an academic temperature, right? So if a student is in terms of their academics and they're in the low 2.0s, we have a conversation with the student about the responsibilities attached to an asynchronous class and the amount of time management and responsibility that takes. Because that's also going to be an important part and reason whether or not they're ready for an asynchronous class or not. It's very convenient because it just lives in the cloud. However, there are deadlines, there are discussion boards that have to be answered at a certain time, and I've run into students that say, well, I'm busy doing work, so I didn't get to it. That's not an excuse. That shouldn't be an excuse. There's a lot of responsibility, even more so with asynchronous classes than in on-campus classes. So there's a conversation too. Like we basically surveyed the individual, the students' academic progression. Have they gotten alerts, or is this a person that really manages very well? That's all part of the conversation that we have with students. Like we wouldn't leave any student to make a decision that isn't going to be convenient for him or her, because at the end of the day, we want them to graduate. However, there are times where students make their decisions. We can't stop them from registering, obviously, but the consequences come later. But those conversations are happening. They do take place. So they know very well what they're signing up for when they do, and know and accept the consequences afterwards.
I just want to just say something really quick. So in my previous role in the Office of Student Enrollment Services, I used to advise a cohort of students. And when I was doing their degree evaluation, like, of course, they had their academic advisor, but because I was managing that cohort, when I did their degree evaluation in year 3, I noticed that they were missing credits. So we were now registering for year 4, and now we're scrambling, trying to figure out where did we drop the ball? Like, what happened? Why are you missing 3 credits or 0.5 credits? At that time, there was a course that was a 1.5 credit course, and then they were missing 0.5 credits. So it's important that they're reaching out to the academic advisor so that they are going through their degree evaluation to make sure that they are making out a plan and registering for the classes that they need to register for, so that when they're in semester 2 of year 3, they're not, now I need to register for additional courses and they don't offer these courses next year or next semester. I'm not sure if you guys are going to touch upon that, but I think that's important to kind of like remind your students.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. It's really an overall, like outside of our success team at home, like with parents, it really is helpful to always lend advice, always asking, hey, how you doing in school? How's college going? Because that also, we're going to touch upon that a little later on, like in terms of wellness for the student, because college could be very overwhelming, right? And there's a lot that's happening where they're transitioning, because this is the precursor. This is the phase before the career phase happens, right? So it's very, very important. So thank you for that, Eva. Okay. So this is our success team model that we have implemented here at the university. So not only is there the advisement piece of it, but there's also what we now implemented, a faculty mentor that could really give a lot of information and put emphasis and talk about internship opportunities with the student when that time comes in the junior and senior year. But this whole circle, think of it like someone coaching the student, and this outside of advisement, there's also the career part of it. There's the major aspect of it, and there's the financial part of it as well, obviously. Because like I mentioned before, students like to take part of summer courses. What does that look like? Does their package covers it? Does it have to come out of pocket, etc.? So all these parts have come together to really help the student navigate and also ease some of those tensions that they have in certain areas. They have a team behind them. They have a team that is there to support them, to answer their questions. Like, we're their main point of contact as advisors. But as Paula mentioned, like, if there's a career question that they have a career coach exclusively assigned to them that is taking care of them. That's their caseload. Financial aid, same thing. They have our colleagues have a specific caseload, just like us, that they overlook, that they manage. So they will know more specifically what needs, what their package looks like, so that when they have those questions, they can cater to their specific inquiries and get their specific answers for their need. And the faculty mentor, again, like I mentioned, it's there to really put emphasis and provide more detail. They're a very important key component to the success team model, because they can give them insight as to particular courses, the need to take courses at a specific time and period, so that they can be on track to graduate. So overall, the whole premise to this is really having the student fall back on different resources, individual resources, departmental resources, so that they don't feel lost throughout their academic journey.
I do want to mention for parents, because this kind of brings me back to when I used to be in college with my parents as well. This also eliminates the overwhelming aspect of like being sent to multiple offices, trying to talk to multiple people, figuring it out and feeling like you're figuring it out on your own. So eliminates that frustration of not being able to know who you are able to communicate with. So as a parent, and for the student as well, the resources are there already. You already have the main contact information on who you need to be, emailing with or calling to, because at the end of the day, those are the people that are going to be working with you. So it's just going to make that transition a lot easier for students, because it's going to eliminate the whole back and forth of need to figure out who is going to answer my question. But as advisors, we're here to help. So if a student is having difficulties getting communication with someone, or they really don't know who they need to be in communication with, we're there. We're going to make sure that, whatever question the student has gets to the right department or the right person. So just make sure that remind the student as a parent as well, if the FERPA has been completed, we're able to help. But we have certain people that are in charge of course, different areas within the departments to help out the student.
So I just wanted to add with that, if for some reason your student is not able to reach any of these people in this success team, then you have to let me know, because then I'm the one that's going to kind of like bridge everything to make sure that your student is in contact with the person that they're supposed to be in contact with. Of course, within FERPA limitations, right? So if there's no FERPA on file for you, I would try my best to kind of connect the student, but then I won't be able to give you any information. So again, if for some reason your student cannot reach out to any of these people, then you have to let me know so that I can make the connect.
Now, in regards of attendance and alerts, we did want to kind of bring this up to the parents' attention, because I think, or we think as advisor, this is really important for you to know and be aware of. So every semester, we have pretty much alerts that go into the system, which is called Navigate. If you are not familiar with Navigate is the platform that we utilize here at the university to make sure that we keep in track of the student in regards on how they're doing academically, for the students to be able to make appointments with, for example, their advisors, even financial aid and tutoring services. They could do it through Navigate as well. So Navigate pretty much let us advisors know, and the student as well, how they're doing in the classes. So for example, if you see right here, at the bottom, if a professor has a concern in regards of a student, they're not attending classes, or they've been missing a lot of assignments, or they need support in their course, the professor could actually put an alert in the system that will let the advisors know, and even the student know, that they need that extra support. So we always recommend for the student to make sure that they're in communication with the advisor, because the advisor is also the person bridging that bridge, or just getting to make sure that the alert is actually mediated and taken care of. So Our recommendation is just remind the student to check their Navigate account for any alerts that they might have. And just to check that everything is going well on that end. If a student has any concern in regards of any of their classes, if they're not sure how they're doing academically in their classes, there's two things that the student could do. One is they could communicate with the advisor and have a conversation with the advisor. But as advisors, we actually put it back on the student a little bit because we want them to become a lot more used to talking to people and building those connections. So we always recommend the student to actually email the professor and ask the professor, hey, good afternoon, professor. I just wanted to check in and see how I'm doing academically in the course. Is there anything that I need to be doing better? Just for them to kind of know where they are in that class. Because the goal is for every semester for the student to be able to do well. And Navigate allows us as advisors to check if the student is doing academically well. We also are able to check their grades for that class if the professor allows us to. And we also are able to check if they're actually been submitting the assignments. So when we meet with students, we're checking all of this with them, doing our one-on-one appointments. So I would advise just for you to just let them know, like, hey, check your Navigate account, just be on the lookout for that, make sure that everything is okay on that end. And if you have any questions, communicate with your advisors. But just so you're aware, we do have a system that the student could check and that we check in regards of if there's any concerns for them. Any questions when it comes to this Navigate system at all? Okay.
And here are important contacts on campus. I will say that they're all equally important, obviously, but if there's ever a time where a student is under duress or just needs someone to talk to, we have amazing folks working at the Counseling and Health and Wellness Center, and they do their very best to see all our students as best as they possibly can. Student Enrollment Services is another great office to get familiarized with. As my colleague Eva used to be part of that office, so I could probably ask her to say a little more about the office without having any misinformation go out.
Well, the Office of Student Enrollment Services, if you've been with us before, Joanna has joined in the conversations, but it's basically your one-stop for anything related to billing, payments, financial aid, and current student records. They are kind of like when you go to a hospital and you first see someone, they triage like whatever's going on, and then they are able to refer you to whoever they can to, or they're just able to take care of the problem right then and there. So they are a great resource to be able to get your questions answered for whatever it may be, because they're very resourceful, very knowledgeable of all the resources that are available on campus. That's why I moved over now to serve you from everything that I learned from there.
There you go. There you go.
I do want to point out that we also have a parent and families handbook as well, created at the Advisement Center. And I think Eva has the information as well that she's able to share with everyone here. And on that handbook, there is a more extensive list of resources, academic resources, and also other resources on campus. I would say when you have time, we recommend for you to take a look at the handbook and get familiar with a lot of the more resources that we have on campus as well.
Yeah, I'll post that on the portal so that everyone has access to it.
Thank you, Eva. Now, we did want to touch base a little bit in regards to self-care. The reason as to why we think that this is really important for us to bring up today is because at this point in time, a lot of students are registering for classes, but on top of registration, they're also working on midterms. And it is a stressful time for students, but we always stress for students that for them to be able to do well academically, they also have to focus on their mental health and their physical well-being. We have the counseling at the Wellness Center on campus, as we mentioned before, that they are amazing at working with students. However, I did want to point out that we also have a new platform that students are able to utilize, which is called UWell. And pretty much a student is able to download that app to their phone and be able to create an account using their student information and actually be able to communicate with a therapist and a counseling right there and there through their phone. And they don't need to go in person to meet with someone here at the university. They also are able to even text with a therapist through the chat as well feature by using the app. So I recommend as a parent, if you're able to, if you feel like the student might need the support, for them to download it, have it on their phone. It doesn't hurt as a resource for them to have. But we want to make sure that every student is doing well. That's why as advisors, we try to not only meet our students for academic purposes, but we try to get to know them as a person as well, because we want to make sure they're doing well. So if you feel like your student needs that support, if you want to connect the student with us, you could always send us an email. Maybe we're not able to share any information with you, but if you let us know, we'll make sure to work with the student. Because at the end of the day, our goal is to make sure the student is not only doing well academically, but doing well with their well-being. And they're forming connections on campus and actually making sure that they are in a good place. Is there anything that you want to add, Cesar, to this?
No, well said.
So I will add to this. So this is a great segue to actually let you know that our next webinar is actually focusing on mental health and well-being. So we're actually going to have a professional from the Counseling Health and Wellness Center talk to us about how we could advocate for our students, right? How can we partner up with our students to make sure that they are in the right state of mind? Especially as we move into like beyond midterms and now like into finals, because it's a very, very stressful time of the semester for them, right? So we're going to have someone that we're going to be able to have an honest conversation. I know mental health is a sensitive topic, right? So we are going to record the session, but when we get into a more in-depth Q&A with the professional, then at that point we're not going to record that for privacy, of whatever it is that you want to share. So definitely join us next time. Is on November 15th at 6 p.m. and I'll send out a reminder to everyone. So there is a question in the chat in regards to financial aid. So the FAFSA for this year has been delayed. Generally, it opens on October 1st, but because the federal government is making changes to the application process, it will not open until later in December. So we will send out information to everyone via the portal and post it on our social media, letting you know when the application is already open. But you should be prepared to start to complete the application in December.
We wanted to take the time to have everyone here please scan the QR code for the sign-in. Please, if you just take the next 2 or 3 minutes, we would appreciate it.
Yes, I've been dropping the link as well in the chat. I'll drop it again one more time. But as you're doing this, do you have any questions for our panelists? And you could definitely unmute yourself. That's fine. We don't bite. We want you to ask.
If this was class, we will ask everyone to turn on the cameras.
Yeah, but this is your space. Yeah,
we understand. We understand, and thank you again for joining us. It's a long day of work. It's dinner time, so we really, really thank you for being part of this.
Yes,
and you could ask us. You could ask us any question in regards to the presentation, or if there's something academically that you will want to know that we're able to share, you could do that as well.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, this is your space. That's why we have created this, so that you could have your answers from the professionals themselves, right? Sometimes it is hard, like maybe trying to get in touch with an office or something like that. But then this is how you and your student also are able to build meaningful connections with the university to take advantage of this space. Okay. So my daughter always says she's bored. She dorms. How can I help?
Mhm. So one of the questions, this is a good question, actually. One of the questions, because we get this all the time, is doing a little probing, right? Has she found anything interesting on campus? Has she had the opportunity to look into clubs, organizations? Like, I think we have nearly close to 100 clubs and organizations on campus. And there's all sorts of activities for every type of student on campus that takes place. Um, I'm not sure if this person is an introvert and an extrovert. That could also be part of the challenge. But just beginning the question by asking them, "Oh, have you looked into the clubs?" Well, let me help you because we do have. If you just on the main website, type in clubs, you get a list of all of them. Maybe sitting down with the student and just kind of going through each of them and see what each offers. There's always something for everyone. I promise you, there's something for everyone. Even for the most introvert or the quietest person, there's something for everyone. So I will
And
begin with that question. Have they looked into organizations, clubs, or activities, workshops? There's plenty that happens on campus.
and also if there isn't anything that it's being offered that they like, they could start their own club.
Mm-hmm.
You know, all they need
Right.
to do is reach out to the Student Government Association and ask like how or campus activity service and leadership and say, you know, how can I get this club started? You know,
Mm-hmm.
and advertising and things like that. Also, um in the residence halls they do have activities, the RAs and things like that. Tell your student to maybe reach out to the RA, start to make connections with the RA. That way they know what's going on. And even if their RA doesn't have like an activity that interests the student, maybe another RA may have something. So definitely looking on Pioneer uh life,
On your life, yeah.
yeah, Pioneer Life, to see what's going on campus. Like I'm trying my best to put as much information on the calendar on the calendar on the portal to make sure that you know, that you also know that things are going on. So share those, you know, share the calendar with your student so that they know everything that's happening on campus.
And something that I do want to mention real quickly is I'm going back based on one of the points that I made from before. We have Common Hour Tuesdays and Thursdays. So taking like the student taking that time to actually attend the events happening on campus during those times, because that's also how the student is going to be able to make connections on campus. Maybe even people that dorm in the same building as them. And that will help tremendously as well, building those connections with people on campus, but also dorming students. So I would say Pioneer Life, really important. And then taking advantage of the Common Hour would be the best option. And as a parent, I would say just remind the student, like, hey, even seeing if the student wants to look at Pioneer Life together with you, that might be something that you could do together.
And you don't have to be logged into Pioneer Life in order to see the events. Like you could definitely see the calendar of events even without being logged in. I'll drop the link to Pioneer Life on the chat so that you can have access to it.
Any other questions or concerns?
Comments? Going once, going twice. Hopefully, again, we'd like to thank you for joining us this evening. We enjoy giving information to parents because parents, they pay the bills, right? That's one. They pay the bills and want to make sure that your student is the investment is paying off, right? So um we're here to help as best as we can. And this is like my colleague Eva mentioned, this is a great platform. If during the day things get busy, this is like a space, between professionals and parents to really talk. And we thank Eva, and we look forward to the next invitations that we could talk to you again on, or if you have a topic in mind, that's something else you can send to her. She's a very, very important resource on campus. My colleague is, because she's that bridge with parents and the university. And please join us in events as well. A tailgate, games. It's also good to show that school spirit, and maybe push your student to be part of that as well. That builds camaraderie and builds community, right? As well.
Yes. So we do have one last question. Can parents have a gate key to drop off supplies at the dorm? I'm pretty sure that the answer is no to that, Marina. However, I am going to find out from Residence Life if there is any time during the day where the gate is open, to see if your student, if you are able to go in. I just need to know, and I'll email you. We'll have a discussion. I'll email you. Just need to know which dorm your daughter lives in. That way, I'm able to get the appropriate information. But yes, please join us for the events that are going on campus. This Saturday, we actually have a Hollow Wheels tailgate event type of thing. On campus right before the football game. There's going to be it's like a car show. There's going to be pumpkin painting and things like that for the little ones. So we definitely would like to see you on campus. And then I know that this past weekend we had homecoming and that we couldn't have the family day portion of it, but rest assured, we're thinking on another way to have you formally come to campus and enjoy everything, all the activities that we actually had planned for homecoming, so that you could enjoy it at a later time. So with that said, if there are no more questions, I think that we could wrap it up right now. And again, I look forward to seeing you again on our next webinar on Wednesday, November 15th at 6 p.m., when we'll talk about mental health and well-being. Thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you so much, everyone. Really appreciate this opportunity. Thank you so much for joining.
Take care.